The first splash didn't make sense. It was early just after sunrise, and I was halfway through my first cup of coffee when my dog Bolt ran to the back door, growling. Then I heard it again. Splash. Giggle. Splash. I opened the sliding glass door, and that's when I saw her Karen floating in my private pool like she owned the place. One leg slung lazily over a neon pink flamingo float, sipping a mimosa from a crystal glass like she was at some country club cabana. For a few seconds, I was too stunned to speak. I thought I was hallucinating. Then she saw me and waved. "Morning, neighbors," she chirped. "You make excellent poolside espresso. You should offer room service." I blinked hard. "Karen, what are you doing in my pool?" "Oh, don't be dramatic. You weren't using it." I looked down and realized she had dragged my lounge chairs around, used my towel rack, and was playing music on my Bluetooth speaker. It was a full-on spa setup, except it was trespassing, plain and simple. I stepped closer. "You broke in." She sipped her drink like it was air. "Actually, I walked in. The gate was open." "It wasn't. I had a keypad lock installed after last summer's kids' water balloon party incident." I glanced at the side gate. It was slightly ajar, but the lock looked scratched. "Tampered." "How did you get the code?" Karen just smirked. "Oh, please. I know people. Besides, it's not really your pool. The HOA considers all visible amenities part of the shared aesthetic. That makes it a visual commons." "That's not a thing," I said, phone already in hand, camera rolling. "It is now," she said, lounging back. "Section for D. Look it up." I didn't need to. I knew that HOA handbook cover to cover. I had spent a year fighting these people over everything from mailbox height to front yard solar lights. There was nothing about visual access equaling legal use. Karen was full of it. "Karen," I said slowly, "you're trespassing. You need to leave." "And if I don't?" she asked, without opening her eyes. "What are you gonna do? Call the HOA?" "I am the HOA." "No," I replied. "I'm calling the cops." That got her attention. She sat up, fast. "Excuse me, you're not excused." I dialed. "There are laws, and you broke them." She laughed sharp, short, condescending. "You're really going to waste their time over a pool?" 10 minutes later, 2 officers pulled up. Karen didn't move. In fact, she doubled down. "This is a private residence," I told them, showing them the video. "She broke in through the side gate, used my furniture, my speaker, and won't leave." Karen looked them dead in the eye. "This man is weaponizing the police over neighborhood relations. I have rights." One officer asked her to leave. She refused. They gave her a warning. She splashed them with water. Finally, they helped her out of the pool, still protesting, and placed her under arrest for trespassing and resisting orders. She was wrapped in one of my beach towels, screaming, "I have a pool therapy exemption." As she was led away, dripping and furious, she shouted, "This isn't over. This is just the first strike." I believed her, because Karen doesn't take defeat. She rewrites the rules to win. And as I looked down at the mess she'd left, broken wine glass, spilled sunscreen, and a soggy HOA handbook, I realized something. This war wasn't over. It was just beginning. 3 days. That's how long it took for Karen to return with dry hair, a smug grin, and a clipboard. I spotted her from my kitchen window, standing right on the edge of my driveway as if daring me to open the door. When I finally stepped out, she looked me up and down like I was the one trespassing. "I'm here in an official HOA capacity," she announced. "You were just arrested for breaking into my property. That's irrelevant. Charges were dropped on technicalities, no proof of lock tampering. Remember, She waved a perfectly manicured hand, as if her midnight pool invasion was just a quirky misunderstanding. I'm issuing a formal citation, she continued, pulling a paper from her clipboard and slapping it onto my mailbox. Multiple violations, starting with unapproved outdoor furniture, unauthorized speaker usage, and excessive noise after 9 p.m. I laughed out loud. That was you in my pool, blasting music. Karen didn't blink. Doesn't matter who made the noise. The homeowner's responsible. Rule 8C, she pointed at my wicker chairs. Those aren't HOA compliant. Must be pre-approved materials. Section 3B. This is a joke, I said. You're making this up. Not at all. And that speaker. She pointed again, voice rising. HOA bylaws don't allow freestanding electronic devices visible from the street. It's all about maintaining community uniformity. Karen, oh? And I noticed your dog barked for over 5 minutes this morning. That's a noise violation, too. Bolt barked once, as if in protest, from inside the house. She added another sheet to the stack. You're up to $1,100 in fines, payable within 10 business days. I snatched the papers and flipped through them. None of these are real rules. You should have thought of that before calling the cops on your neighbors. Her smile turned icy. This is what happens when you weaponize the law. Then she turned and walked away like she'd just served divine justice. Over the next 48 hours, things escalated. It started with petty annoyances. A notice appeared on my lawn declaring it non-compliant with community landscaping aesthetics. Someone spray-painted community pool in chalk across my driveway. A friendly HOA reminder was taped to my recycling bin. In the middle of the night, the final straw, a city utility truck pulled up and shut off my backyard floodlights. A report had been filed claiming I'd installed unauthorized high wattage bulbs that were disrupting neighboring residents' sleep cycles. Karen had gone nuclear. I gathered everything: photos, footage, HOA documents. Even the police report and drove to the HOA headquarters downtown. The receptionist, an older woman with tired eyes, gave me a tight smile when I explained the situation. Oh, you must be the one Karen's been talking about. I tensed. What's she been saying? She's filed 7 formal complaints against you in 3 days, the woman sighed. But here's the thing, Karen isn't officially on the HOA board anymore. I blinked. She's not. The woman lowered her voice. She was removed after the pool incident. She just won't let go. She's using outdated authority. I stared at her. So she's impersonating an HOA officer? The woman hesitated. Technically, yes. But no one's stopping her. Everyone's too afraid. And that's when I knew. I wasn't just dealing with a nosy neighbor or even a vindictive Karen. I was up against a woman who refused to relinquish power even when it wasn't hers to hold. And now she was using the rules to punish me. Fake rules, real consequences. This was no longer a neighborhood dispute. This was war. It was time to strike back. Karen's harassment had gone unchecked for too long. And now I knew the truth. She wasn't even part of the HOA board anymore. She was faking authority, bluffing with printed nonsense and invented rules. But everyone around here had been conditioned to fear her clipboard and that shrill tone that could pierce steel. So I decided to do what no one else had dared: expose the illusion. Step 1. Get the real HOA involved. I scheduled a formal meeting with the actual HOA board. Most of them were quiet types. Paper pushers who just wanted to keep lawns green and Christmas lights within regulation. When I brought the entire folder of Karen's fake citations, video of her in my pool, and the city utilities report she fraudulently filed, the board president, a soft-spoken man named Dennis, sat up straighter. She claimed to be acting on your behalf, I said. You didn't authorize any of this. Dennis looked horrified. Absolutely not. After the pool incident, we removed her from all positions. She doesn't even have access to the HOA portal anymore. This is impersonation. Then stop her. I snapped. You've got legal grounds. Dennis sighed. She still has influence. People are afraid to report her. She runs the Facebook group, and half the neighborhood thinks she's still in charge. I leaned in. So let's change. Dennis hesitated. What do you have in mind? That night, I set up a hidden camera overlooking my front porch and driveway. I baited the trap. I printed a fake HOA violation absurd, over the top, illegal use of white porch light bulb. HOA mandates yellow hue bulbs only. I taped it to my own door, signed with Karen's signature copied from her previous notices. The next morning, I posted the footage to the neighborhood's Facebook group. The video showed Karen arriving at 5:47 a.m., clipboard in hand, peeling off my fake notice and replacing it with her own busted. The caption read, "Caught on camera, Karen impersonating an HOA officer again. Watch what she replaces my violation with. Let's talk about fraud." The post blew up. Within the hour, 30 comments rolled in. She did the same thing to my backyard lighting. Wait, Karen's not on the board anymore. Why didn't anyone say anything sooner? Karen tried to downplay it. Of course. There's a lot of confusion right now. I'm simply helping maintain standards. But for once, people weren't buying it. That evening, Dennis posted an official HOA notice. Reminder, only elected board members may issue notices. Karen S. is not authorized to act on behalf of the HOA. Anyone impersonating the board will face legal action. I thought that would be the end. But I'd underestimated one thing. Karen didn't know how to lose Dot at 2:13 a.m. I was woken by the sound of a car revving in front of my house. I peeked out the window. Karen was there. She was dragging something toward my driveway. I slipped on shoes, turned on my phone camera, and stepped outside just in time to see her shoving an inflatable kiddie pool across my lawn, spilling half its contents in the process. "What are you doing?" I called. She froze. "Replacing your illegal pool with an HOA-compliant one. That's trespassing." She straightened, eyes wild. "Then call the cops again. Let's see how they feel about community vandalism. I am the HOA." "No," I said calmly, recording every word. "You were the HOA. Now you're just a neighbor with a criminal record and a water hazard." Karen hissed like a cat cornered. "You think you've won. I am this neighborhood." Then she slipped on the wet pavement and fell face first into the kiddie pool. It wasn't just over. It was getting worse. Because now she wasn't just angry. She was humiliated. End of part 3. Hook for part 4. Karen's mask is slipping. But humiliation is dangerous fuel. And she's about to unleash something even darker. Hiding behind those HOA rulebooks, because next time, she won't come with a clipboard. She'll come with a liar. For a few blissful days, there was silence. No citations taped to my door. No fake violations. No early morning HOA sermons shouted across the fence. Karen had vanished, or at least, she'd gone into hiding. I should have known better. On the 5th day, it arrived, a thick, cream-colored envelope, hand-delivered by a man in a suit who didn't bother with pleasantries. He knocked once, handed it over, and said, "You've been served." I opened it on the kitchen counter with trembling fingers. Inside was a lawsuit. Karen was suing me for defamation, emotional distress, and property damage. I stared at the words. The defendant did knowingly publish misleading video content to incite online harassment, psychological trauma caused by targeted community shaming, loss of social standing and reputation within the HOA community, It read like a fever dream written in legalese. But at the bottom was the worst part. She had a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, Bradley T. Moran, a known HOA specialist in the county. A bulldog with a reputation for turning neighborhood disputes into years-long legal warfare. I called Dennis from the HOA board immediately. She's suing me. I asked, pacing, for catching her on camera breaking into my pool. Dennis sighed. She threatened to do the same to me when I voted her off the board. Bradley's on retainer with her family. It's intimidation pure and simple. Is it going to work? I asked. Depends. Are you going to fight back? Oh, I was. Step 1 was assembling my arsenal, not weapons evidence. I compiled every HOA handbook copy from the last 10 years. Every citation Karen ever wrote. Every neighbor who had a complaint, but had been too scared to speak up. Then I met with a lawyer of my own, Dana Patel. She was young, sharp, and had the perfect reaction when I laid the lawsuit in front of her. She laughed. She claims you damaged her reputation after she climbed into your pool like a drunk raccoon. I have video. I saw it. Everyone did. This case is paper thin. But Karen's playing a different game. It's not about winning. It's about draining you. Dragging it out. I realized. Exactly. Death by 1,000 legal fees. We filed a countersuit malicious prosecution, trespassing, and harassment and sent Karen a warning letter of our own. The next morning, my mailbox had been smashed in. Then came the letters from her lawyer. Dozens of them. Complaints, threats, requests for mediation. She was trying to exhaust me, wear me down. But I wasn't alone anymore, because something strange had started happening in the neighborhood. People who'd never spoken up, people who'd nodded politely at Karen for years started coming to me. They brought their own horror stories. She fined me $200 for having a bird feeder. She threatened to evict my elderly mother for using a walker on the grass. She once dug up my tulips and replaced them with hoe-approved bushes. They were tired. And now that they'd seen her fall face first into a kiddie pool of her own making, they were ready to fight. We formed a neighborhood group chat, called it Free the Block. By the end of the week, over 30 homes had joined. Karen wasn't just facing me anymore. She was facing everyone she'd ever tried to silence. And she was about to find out a clipboard doesn't hold much power when no one's afraid of it anymore. The gloves were off now. Karen had been exposed. The neighborhood was organizing. The lawsuit was turning in my favor. And that's exactly when she changed tactics. Instead of fighting me directly, Karen turned to the only thing that had ever given her power in the first place, the HOA. She wasn't going to win her lawsuit, so she tried something far more dangerous. She decided to take the HOA back. It started with a small announcement. HOA special election, emergency board restructuring vote, due to ongoing community concerns and recent instability. All board seats are now open for re-election. Members may submit their candidacy by Friday. The notice was signed by 2 board members, both longtime Karen loyalists. Dennis called me the second it went live. She's behind this, he said. I recognize the language she's using. Bylaws from 6 years ago that were never repealed, but haven't been enforced in ages. She's found a loophole. She's running for HOA president again. Not just running. Dennis said grimly. She's stacking the board with her puppets. If she pulls this off, she'll be back in full control. I pulled up the HOA portal. Sure enough, Karen's name was first on the ballot, in bold. Her campaign platform, restoring order, discipline, and respect to our community. She even posted a campaign video on the neighborhood Facebook group. In it, she stood in front of a white picket fence with soft music playing, talking about rebuilding unity, keeping outsiders in check, and my personal favorite, protecting families from backyard anarchy. She didn't mention the pool. She didn't mention the lawsuit. But everyone knew exactly who she was targeting. And terrifyingly, some people agreed with her. The older residents. The ones who liked a quiet neighborhood and didn't want drama. The ones who believed Karen's version of order. If she won this vote, she'd come back stronger than ever. So I ran against her. It wasn't part of the plan. But there was no way I'd let her seize control without a fight. I posted my own video, clips of the pool break-in, the kiddie pool incident, screenshots of bogus citations she'd slapped on mailboxes like candy on Halloween. I didn't speak with scripted perfection. I spoke like someone who was done being pushed around. The HOA was meant to protect this neighborhood, not punish it. I'm not here to control you. I'm here to remind you that this place belongs to all of us, not just one clipboard-wielding tyrant with a god complex. The response? Massive. My inbox exploded with messages of support. Neighbors I barely knew stopped by to shake my hand. Some even brought baked goods and whispered. Finally, someone stood up to her. But Karen didn't back down. She doubled her flyers, ramped up her fear-mongering, and started calling herself the acting community liaison. At one point, she even claimed I was installing unlicensed pool lighting to lure in partygoers and disrupt residential peace. I countered by live streaming my backyard. No noise, no parties. Just my dog, Bolt, napping beside a covered grill. Election day came. Votes were cast at the clubhouse, and the parking lot felt like a standoff. People stared. Some whispered. Karen stood near the entrance, all smiles, hugging people like a political candidate. I stayed on the sidewalk, clipboard in hand, making sure people felt safe enough to vote free of Karen's scrutiny. By sundown, the count began. And when the final tally was posted, Karen had lost badly. I wasn't just elected to the board. I was voted in as president. You'd think winning the election would be the end of it. I did to naively. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that Karen doesn't just go away. She festers. She waits. And then she strikes. It started with the roses. 2 weeks after I was sworn in as HOA president, my mailbox overflowed with complaints from residents involved in the community garden. Nothing dramatic at first, just subtle problems. Flower beds dug up. Organic compost bins knocked over. Tools missing. Then came the accusations. I saw a figure near the garden at night. One woman whispered to me at the mailbox. Blonde. Short. Definitely Karen. Another neighbor swore they saw her pouring something into the irrigation system. The garden had always been sacred ground here. Neutral territory. Even Karen never messed with it when she was in charge. But now that she wasn't, nothing was off limits. I installed cameras. The very next morning, the footage came in. There she was, 1:14 a.m. hood up, carrying 2 jugs of what turned out to be vinegar and salt. She was salting the soil, a literal scorched earth policy. I took the footage to Dana, my attorney. This, she said, is criminal mischief, tampering with shared HOA property. You have enough here to press charges. I was tempted, believe me, but something stopped me. Not fear. Strategy. If I called the cops again, she'd play the victim, accuse me of harassment, of targeting her for personal revenge. So instead, I made it public. That same day, I posted a detailed HOA bulletin. Last night, a former board member vandalized our community garden. Footage has been turned over to the legal team. While we consider our next steps, we ask all residents to respect shared spaces and report suspicious activity. I didn't name her. I didn't have to. The neighborhood lit up. That post hit harder than any lawsuit. Her name was in every comment thread. People started watching their yards. Her disciples began falling silent, embarrassed by their former allegiance. Even her best friend Marlene removed her from the weekly poker night. Karen was unraveling. But she wasn't done yet, because 3 days later, I received an emergency call from Dennis. "You need to get to the clubhouse now." When I arrived, I was met with disaster. The windows had been egged, the flower planters overturned. Someone had spray painted and peached the fraud across the front door. Inside, the meeting room was wrecked. Chairs scattered, files dumped on the floor, the new welcome banner shredded into ribbons, and taped to the whiteboard in bold red ink was a message: "HOA was better before you." Karen didn't sign it. She didn't have to. But this time, it crossed a line. This wasn't just sabotage. It was a threat. Dana didn't hesitate. "We're pressing charges," she said. "This is break-in, vandalism, and intimidation. You've been more than patient." So we did. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, 2 officers knocked on Karen's door. The neighborhood watched from porches and windows as she screamed, cried, and claimed she was being framed. She was handcuffed on her own front lawn. As they placed her in the cruiser, she shouted at me, "This isn't over. You think they love you. Wait till you mess up. They'll turn on you too." But this time, her voice didn't echo with power. It cracked. It wavered. She was done. Karen was gone, or so we thought. After the vandalism, the garden sabotage, and the spray-painted clubhouse, she was officially charged with criminal mischief and trespassing. Her court date was set. For the first time in years, the neighborhood felt peaceful. But it didn't last, because Karen's fall from grace wasn't the end of the chaos, it was the beginning. And what we uncovered next made everything she'd done look like child's play. It started when I received a cryptic email from a resident I barely knew, Mr. Abbott, a quiet retiree who lived on the east end of the neighborhood. "You think Karen was the root? Look deeper. HOA finances 2022. Start with the landscaping contracts." I blinked. It didn't make sense. But I followed the lead. I had access now as HOA president. I could request full financial records. So I dug. Dana helped. Dennis came over with pizza and a spreadsheet. Addiction. We stayed up all night comparing numbers. What we found was a $96,000 hole over 2 years. The HOA had approved contract after contract with a company called Green Shade Maintenance, supposedly for community landscaping. But the weird part, the work orders didn't match reality. $4,000 billed for replanting bushes that had never been touched. Monthly charges for fountain upkeep. But the fountain had been shut down for repairs since 2021. Long receding in December. In Florida, it stank. I called Greenshed's listed number. Disconnected. The address on the invoice, a vacant lot. So I asked Dana to run a full business record. Search. What she found hit like a thunderclap. Green Shade Maintenance LLC was registered under the name of Martin S. Kelly. Martin Kelly, the former HOA treasurer, Karen's predecessor. The same man who quietly moved out 2 years ago just before Karen took over and cleaned house. Karen wasn't the storm, Dana said, eyes narrowing. She was the cover. Suddenly, everything clicked. Karen had always seemed power-hungry but irrational, as if she was playing a part, enforcing bizarre rules, terrorizing residents, and funneling attention toward petty drama, while someone else was bleeding the HOA dry from behind the curtain. So we dug further. Turns out, Martin had left town but not the state. He'd moved just 2 hours north, changed his phone number, and started a new LLC under a different name, Silver Palm Consulting. But here's where it got wild. In Karen's lawsuit documents, the very ones she filed against me, we found references to a property consultant she worked with for community policy advice. You guessed it, Martin. Karen wasn't just acting alone. She'd been coached, trained, manipulated. Martin had used her to cause chaos, enforce petty tyranny, and deflect attention while he quietly embezzled tens of thousands from HOA funds. And the best part, Karen didn't even know the full extent. From what we could tell, she thought she was running things. That she was the queen. She was just a pawn. We compiled the evidence. Copies of invoices, fake signatures, emails, cross-referenced business, registrations. Then we called the state attorney's office. A full investigation launched within days. And just like that, the HOA drama that started with one woman in my pool escalated into a full-blown fraud case. Karen's charges were amended to include conspiracy. Martin, a warrant was issued for his arrest. And when news broke across the neighborhood, the shock was seismic. The people Karen had scared into silence for years. They were furious. Karen always believed she could control the narrative. Even as the charges piled up, as Martin's embezzlement came to light, as the community turned their backs on her, she still thought she could talk her way out. But this time, no one was listening. Because this time, the neighborhood wasn't afraid of her anymore. The HOA called for an emergency community meeting. Everyone came. More than 90 residents packed into the clubhouse, shoulder to shoulder. Some stood in the hallway. Others watched through the windows. No one wanted to miss what was coming. I took the podium. Behind me was a projector, already cued to reveal everything line by line. Misused funds, falsified maintenance, video, clips, screenshots. It was all there. But before I could even begin, the door opened, and Karen walked in. Not with swagger, with desperation. Hair a mess, shirt wrinkled, but still clutching a binder like it could save her. She didn't speak to me, didn't nod. She walked right up to the microphone and slammed her hand down. "None of this was my fault," she snapped. "You've all turned on me like I'm some criminal. But I was trying to protect this community." Boos erupted. A few people actually laughed as she pressed on. I was given guidance. Martin handled the finances. I didn't sign anything illegal. I was just doing my job. That was her final defense. I was just doing my job. But no one clapped. No one cheered. Because her job, for 3 years, had been tormenting us. Finding kids for lemonade stands, peering through fences, breaking into pools. And now, everyone saw her clearly, not as a leader, but as a shield, a puppet, a fraud. The vote was held immediately after. It wasn't even close, unanimous. Karen was permanently banned from holding any HOA office or participating in any official capacity. Her privileges were revoked. Her fines were reinstated. She was evicted from every committee she'd ever chaired: garden club, parking oversight, pool safety. And as for Martin, that very night, he was arrested to counties north. Turns out, he'd been preparing to flee the state. His laptop and burner phone were found in a motel room, along with files onto other HOA letters in nearby communities. He had a whole system. He'd been doing this for years, hopping from HOA to HOA, installing enforcers like Karen to keep residents distracted while he funneled money into shell companies. But we were the ones who stopped him. Because we didn't just fire back, we uncovered everything. In the months that followed, the neighborhood changed. The tension was gone. People started waving again. Kids rode bikes down streets that used to feel patrolled. The garden came back to life, roses blooming where salted earth once lay. As for me, I stayed on as HOA president. But with one major change: transparency. Every meeting was recorded and posted. Budgets were published monthly. Residents could weigh in on every vote. No more secrets. No more tyrants. Just a community taking care of its own. And one final twist: Karen moved out. She tried to stay, even appealed her fines. But the neighborhood didn't want her here anymore. Not because we hated her, because we saw through her. She was a bully. Yes, but more than that. She was the perfect mask for a con artist. And when her mask cracked, the whole scam unraveled. Final scene. One warm Saturday, I was grilling by the pool again peacefully this time. Bolt lay in the shade, chewing a squeaky toy. The neighbors mingled. Plates full of burgers and lemonade. As I leaned over the grill, a new resident came up to me, confused. I heard some crazy story about this place. Something about a pool, a towing company, a woman named Karen getting arrested. Was that real? I smirked. Oh yeah, all of it. They left. Sounds like a movie. I flipped a burger and smiled. Nah, just another day in the HOA. The end.